All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 13 with Pours with Patriots. I have my 13th guest. Hopefully, it's not unlucky number 13.
Might be.
No, we'll be good. We'll make it. So, as you can see in the house, we have another Army guy from the Flags. If you haven't figured that out on episode 13, I know there's Marines in here that haven't figured it out yet, but we do change the flag back there for whatever service the guest is in. So we glad to welcome another U.S. Army member and another artilleryman. Yes. Our second artilleryman we were just talking about before. So I'd like to welcome former Army Sergeant Jordan Bernsdorf. So we'll start it off with an artillery quote I found. So you may have heard this one, may not. There's actually some really good artillery quotes we talk about. So the one I found I loved was my first one is artillerymen believe the world consists of two types of people, other artillerymen and targets. So it's an anonymous one. So pretty accurate. They're just all about, blowing shit up, which is good. But I'd just like to welcome, we start off like many guests. Jordan grew up here in Ohio. We're trying to stick with Ohio people because we live in Ohio. So it's kind of convenient. So Jordan grew up really close to here, Westerville. Yeah. Where we're at right now. He's an Ohio guy through and through. So interesting. My kids went to Orange High School. So you're the original OG.
Yeah, Orange didn't exist when I was in high school.
Way back when?
Yeah, way back when.
Which was what?
Well, I'm 14 now, so that would have been I graduated in 07. I think Orange started in 08, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So that's Orange is definitely a better high school. If you ask anybody, you can ask my kids. Except for we all pay the same taxes now, so it sucks anyways. But yeah. Berlin's the better school to be at.
I only got 4.
Yeah,
on the way.
Isn't that crazy though? Yeah. You grew up one high school now. It's all right. You brought that up. There's
Montangy. I think when we started, it was K through 12 in like one building.
Really?
Like when I was like
when
I was like in kindergarten.
What year was that? Because you're so old. It's like
I can't.
We have a definition of way back. Like way back is like 75.
Not everyone is as old as you. Okay.
That is true, and there's many people older than me. But and again, what we're privileged to have is another Ohio National Guardsman with us. So Jordan spent, as you know, most people are assuming he was in the military in the Army, like we talked about, but the Army National Guard and like many of Ohio National Guard. I'm sorry, and many of the Ohio National Guards, you signed up when you were senior, right?
Yep, senior in high school.
Okay. Yep. How old?
I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah. So I signed up halfway through my school year.
So any other branches you thought about, or always Army?
Always Army. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why I think they just offered a good signing bonus and they had a job I wanted to do. And so, I never.
And you went into 13 Bravo. So field artillery cannon crew member is what the technical term is. So what was the bonus for at the time when you came in there?
It was $20,000.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Which is to a 17-year-old is a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money to me now, but especially to a 17-year-old.
That is a lot. I mean, that's interesting.
It's tax, obviously.
For Ohio, but the Ohio for the Ohio National Guard.
Now, I think at the time you got 10 when you signed, and then when you hit, I think 3 years of service, you got your other 10. So it's not like you just pocket.
Yeah, 20 and then run to Mexico or Canada.
Yeah, you're not going to make it for 20,000.
So before we get into that, I actually went too fast, and I don't want to get Jason mad because he actually made us some really good burgers. So we have to go to the first featured whiskey. Jason likes us to start off early, and I literally went a whole 3 minutes before doing this. So I'm sorry, Jason. Make us burgers next time again. They were great. So our first featured whiskey we're going to start off with is what Jordan brought. For us here in the area, it's nothing new. See, New Riff kind of did that, but here in Ohio, it's pretty well known. New Riff. A little bit about them is New Riff is located in Newport, Kentucky, which is just across the river from Cincinnati. It's going to be the first of the family-owned distilleries that we feature tonight. It's actually it was founded in 2014 by Ken Lewis, who it was a visionary businessman and liquor retailer. So for people that know the area, he actually used to be a part owner in the Party Source. This whole roll into New Riff changed some stuff. We're not going to go into that, but with liquor laws. But New Riff, started in 2014. Like many startup distilleries, they had to make a choice whether they're going to sell really young stuff or to source. They actually decided to source their bourbon from MGP, and it was known as OKI, which we have here. And all these guys are waiting for me to open this up, which we will soon. They're all smiling off camera. We'll open that up. But OKI, which actually stands for Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and the saying was distilled in Indiana, bottled in Kentucky, and loved in Ohio. That brand lasted for about 4 years until they flagged to New Riff. So you can go ahead and, if you want to pour it, I could use a pour. To New Riff, what you see here, they started releasing their own distillate in 2018 with their Kentucky Straight Bourbon bottle and bond. Everything is bottle and bond for them. And then they also do some special releases that one of the members had already brought up with the Balboa Rye, but they've done some other ones like Winter Whiskey, malted rye. What we're drinking tonight is from a local bourbon group, Boko. Glory to Ukraine. It's a private barrel pick. It's 4.5 years old, which is normally around the range that all their bourbons are right now. They're single barrel bourbons. It's 113.6 proof. It's non-chill filtered, which is kind of a big thing for the bourbon nerds and Lord of the Rings nerds, which we'll talk about later with Jordan. And then also this mash bill is what they consistently have is 65% corn. It's 30% rye and then 5% malted barley. So we did talk about that. They did eliminate this. I have a different bottle up here. We're trying to educate people, but they did eliminate this to go to New Riff. But then recently, last year, I think they sold the brand. I think it was from under 100,000, maybe even under 50,000. They sold the brand name. So you'll see bottles here that the new brand, a little bit different label, definitely not in the same league. With the original OK and the MGP stuff. It is MGP stuff, but a lot younger. But thank you for bringing that. And then a little bit about this bottle. The bottle was done by a local broker group, and it did raise a ton of money for the fight in Ukraine against Mother Russia. So cheers. Thanks for bringing that.
Yeah, cheers.
And sorry, Jason, for going a whole 3 minutes without getting into the whiskey.
I'll let it slide this time.
Good. So we'll get back to it, to Jordan, which is supposed to be the important thing, not the whiskey. So, yeah. So you talked about enlisting. So you said you don't know why the Army, but anybody else in your family in the military?
Yeah, my dad was. He probably served in the 70s. He was in the Army and he was a mechanic.
Okay.
So
how long did he do that?
He did I want to say 4 years. So he never persuaded me. My parents weren't. My mom wasn't super fond of me joining, but my dad was supportive, obviously, since he had some history there. But yeah.
What was your mom's reaction?
She was sad. She was nervous and everything. And I think my parents were divorced at the time, but they still get along and still would talk and stuff. So, my dad kind of talked her off the cliff a little and told her it's okay. Like, it's fine. He's not going to deploy and all this stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to deploy. He's only going to be in the Ohio National Guard. What could go wrong?
Right.
Which is
everything can go wrong in the Ohio National Guard.
That's a great story. Talk your mom off the ledge with all the lies. Oh, he's going to be totally safe. It's such a safe MOS.
My dad was like go anywhere, essentially. Just everything you want to hear.
That is great. And it's funny. I think as you talk to people, you always have a lot of support, but there's always sometimes that one family member who's not really into it.
She was excited. She was happy and proud, but she was definitely very nervous and very hesitant. But I think once I signed, she was behind me 100%.
So I got a hard question here. So we'll start off hard. So you got a young son.
Yes.
Ryder, right?
Ryder, yeah.
So, and you got a daughter, River. She's 3. So what's your thoughts on them following in your footsteps in the military? You hope that happens? You hope it doesesn't happen, or is it too early to say?
Free college, so I'm for it for sure. Anything to get those expenses down. So
yeah, that's true. We would first start with academics. Strong Ryder, River. Listen, get good grades, get a good ACT. Join the band because it seems like the band gets a lot of money for scholarships, and then if you need extra cash, then maybe we'll look into the 20. By now, it's got to be like when they enlist, it'll be like
I don't know if they even do signing bonuses anymore.
I think they do for some MOSs, but I don't think.
No, I'm supportive. I would 100% support them. Yeah. That's going to be 15 years from now or something for them. So who knows what the state of things will be like, and But I think. I would support them for sure. Yeah,
because I'm on the opposite. I'm kind of glad my son didn't get the bug. They're doing their own thing, but yeah, I'm the same way though. Like if they did do it, I'd be supportive of it. But I'm kind of glad they didn't. interesting what my wife would think. I'm pretty sure she would probably feel the same way your mom did and my mom did, would be pretty
that's
much
true.
against it. But so another good story, we got to get him to get out of his shell a little bit. So there seems to be a theme here that's going on is a lot of people enlist and they want to be military policemen, and then something happens and they don't become military policemen. So we go back to the 60s with my dad, and he's going to kill me for saying this. Like Jordan, something popped up that prevented him from being an MP. So Jordan has the story that he has to share. He was going to be an MP until what happened?
Yeah. So I decided to try and pursue an MP route because I figured it would carry over pretty easily to the civilian world. So I thought, I can do this. It seemed interesting. It seemed fun. This is so many years ago. I can't remember the whole process that you go through basically before you actually swear in and sign the contract. But, everything was lining up. My recruiter was great. And I had told him ahead of time, hey, there's something in my past that might prevent me from pursuing this. And he said, just don't bring it up. Just don't even say it. It was expunged from my record. And I'll tell the story and then I'll go back and tell what happened. But so we go to, I think it was MEPS, where you actually swear in and stuff. And you meet with somebody there kind of a little bit before you actually swear in to kind of get everything signed and everything ready. And I, for whatever reason, freaked out and decided to tell this person that I had a small criminal record.
Were they wearing a collar? Did you think they were a priest?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't know why I made it all this way. And so obviously I screwed it up there, and I come out and tell my recruiter, hey, I made this mistake. And he just was shaking his head. So we had 2 hours before I swear in to find a new MOS. And we're searching through his computer of does this sound fun to you? And I was like, I don't know. And
what were the other choices you had?
I have no idea. I mean, I was I had a pretty average, decent ASVAB score. So I don't know what was available, based on openings, but he's artillery. You did shoot big cannons and you're far away from everyone, and
you'll never deploy.
I was yeah, that sounds fun. But what happened was I was a senior. I think it was when I was a junior in high school. Me and a few friends egged this kid's house, which is funny because I just found my court documents a couple weeks ago for this, and we egged this kid's house. And we did $10,000 worth of damage to this kid's house. He had to get their stucco repainted. They had to get windows replaced and all this stuff. So we had minor misdemeanors on our record. Had to do community service, but it was all expunged. It wasn't that big of a deal. But I freaked out and thought it would come back up somehow. And
you thought you'd be at military police school, at AIT, and they're like, Private Bernsdorf, we need to talk to you.
The president would come in and tell me he needs to.
We just found out what you did. You did such an awful thing. But what's crazy when you told my story is we used to live in Texas before this, and Texas was notorious for all these kids going and egging houses. Right. So parents would kids went and spent the night at kids' houses. The next day, my kids would be like, oh, you're not gonna believe this. We went and egged the Duncans and all this. And I'm just and I thought the same thing you thought. I'm like, where are your parents? Where are the parents? Oh, they were helping us. They went with us to do it. So it was funny how many times we did that. When you thought that, I'm like, Christ, I wonder if my kids at age 8 are wanted for a misdemeanor somewhere in Texas. But so I thought that was an interesting thing. It says a lot about you as your ethics. So all joking aside, you felt like you had to.
Well, it's funny.
What was your thought process? Were you just scared, or I think
there was a scared, and I think there was an integrity aspect. I truthfully was a really good kid. I didn't really get into trouble. I mean, toilet paper, a couple houses, but that was an instance where a few friends kind of that I would hang out with. We would play video games online. They had this idea, and I went along with it. And of course, the one time we do it, we get caught. And so,
I mean, you got caught in the act or after?
Afterwards. So it's funny. I don't know 100% how it happened. My friend's mom's car had a very distinct license plate. And we were driving through this neighborhood, saw another group of kids, and didn't say anything to interact with them. But the next day, a cop shows up at my friend's doorstep when I spent the night over there. And my friend just kind of caved and admitted it. And so it all went downhill from there. But it was a very humbling experience for me. Because I was this is not who I want to be. It was embarrassing.
I mean, it's better than like saying. I mean, you egged the house. I mean, I get it, like some misdemeanor property damage, but like,
Yeah, it
you
wasn't
guys
like
decided
I
like,
killed
hey,
a
let's
guy.
go rob 7-Eleven.
No, we did that 2 years later.
Let's
Haven't
kid-
gotten
Remember
caught
those
for
kids
that.
we saw? We're gonna kidnap one of them fuckers. I mean, but,
Yeah, if you're out there and you ratted on us.
I just love that down to the wire. You decided that it was
Yeah.
like, hey, it's time to confess. And I just imagine what your recruiter was like. What?
Oh, he probably
Why?
was so mad.
Yeah, like you just. What had a better bonus, MP or?
I couldn't remember. I think 20 was the max at the time, so I think it was
Yeah.
probably 20, if not
Yeah.
probably close to that.
Because I feel like at the time I wouldn't think those were that tough of MOSs to get people in, but I guess
Yeah.
it's Ohio, so not many people want to live in Ohio unless they're forced to.
Yeah.
So
Well, it was
I can-
this was 06. So I think they're still probably sending a bunch of troops over and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think
but you weren't going to
There's-
deploy as an MP or field artilleryman. That's
Yeah.
talk to your mom,
according
and,
to my
your mom and the MEPS guy. It was
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're fine. Man. 13 series, you're
Yeah.
fine. You guys, you don't do much. No big deal.
Little did I know.
Yeah, great, but it's a great MOS. I mean, really, one of the probably most well-known
Yeah.
MOS is being a 13 Bravo. It's one of the most recognizable ones.
Yeah, it
that
was
people
fun.
talk about.
I'm glad it worked out the way.
It was cool. So then you, like many people in the field artillery, unfortunately had to go to Fort Sill.
Mhm.
Sorry, Shane. One of my classmates is actually commanding Fort Sill right now. Sorry, it's still a shithole, even though you're there.
not
But
fun.
you went there 2007.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. That was right before. I got out in 05, so it was
So
right
you were
before I was
old,
up there a
so-
lot. Yeah, I'm old. Yeah. But we went up to Fort Sill for mobilizing units and stuff. So,
Okay.
and then unlike what Jordan's dad thought, you came back and you deployed.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to my mom in AIT, or maybe it was basic towards the end on the phone. And she was like, hey, your unit's deploying when you get home. And I was like, oh.
So you found out from your mom.
I found out through my mom in basic or in AIT. Yeah. So it was like, oh, wow. Like, that's different. So I was, it was kind of like, it was.
You
it was-
lied to me,
Yeah. I called my recruiter and called him a liar. No. So it was a wake up call. It was kind of like, oh, like I was going to be home for a month and a half, and then we were going to mobilization. So.
So when you were, what was your idea plan? Like you were going to come out of AIT, go to college?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I wanted to go to Ohio State. So I figured come home. Why?
No.
Well, because it's the best college. No, I really didn't have any desire. I didn't know what I was going to study. That was one of the reasons I joined the military. Was 'cause
Right.
I didn't know what I was going to study in college, but I knew I wanted to go to Ohio State. All my friends were going there, and I just figured, come home from AIT, go to college, and do my 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, and
You're heavy with cash.
yeah, spend it all on illegal things.
All on eggs and toilet paper.
Yeah.
But so you came back, obviously, like you said, and then that was your first deployment. You went to Kuwait. That
Yep.
was your first deployment.
Yeah, we went to Fort Hood actually for 3 months.
Another great
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Lovely
in the
Fort
winter
Hood.
time. Yep.
That's better than the summertime. Though.
Yeah.
Fort Hood. Were you at North Fort Hood? Did they stick you up there too, or were you?
I have no idea. We were right near Colleen, like right
Okay,
out the
yeah.
gate. A couple
Yeah,
of
it's not North Fort Hood where they
Okay.
stick you way up there, but yeah, you probably did
Okay.
some training up there. But
But
yeah, Fort Hood is awesome too. Not, but there's not many places that are great, except for Fort Bragg, of course. And let me throw it out there. This week was Airborne Day. I had to do that just to throw it at somebody here. And you're not getting this now, Jason, because the obscene hand signal you just made. No, it's cool. But so you went there from mobilization or
Mhm.
pre-training, and then you went over to Kuwait.
Yep.
And you guys got tasked to do all kinds of like the base security stuff again.
Yeah.
Like it's totally safe. You're not going to have to worry about
Yeah.
anything yet. Like your
Kuwait
mom said.
Kuwait was a vacation. I mean, we knew it going into it. There wasn't really any activity in Kuwait, and we were going to be on the base pretty much the whole time and checking IDs and sitting in towers and
drawing dicks and polygons.
yeah. There was a certain individual.
Yeah,
who-
I mean, he's in the group. Like
Yeah.
this is like fair now, but it's everybody we know. So it's our chance. So there is a member.
yes.
So should we say?
Yeah, I feel like we need to say.
I feel
He
like
would be
yeah,
proud.
I think he would be because it's one of my proudest moments. I told you before when
Well,
he told me what he did.
He lives through it like today. Like
Yeah.
he still speaks about it.
So you guys were big into drawing.
Well,
Dicks in the Porta
don't
Johns.
say everyone. Again, it was primarily
That's what
one
they were doing.
individual.
They were at an Air Force base drawing obscene. Sorry,
No, it was a
obscene.
naval.
Yeah,
Naval. Naval.
Was it? Oh, naval base.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Drawing all kinds of scenes. And the reason to talk about is he did have a great story. I told you, shared that was one of my favorite stories. It was a few years back, and I think it was like Veterans Day, and we're talking about stuff. People were like, post your pictures and stuff, and he like posted a picture of. I wish if I have it, I think I still do. I will post it in there of like, he's like, this is what I did when I was in Kuwait. And it was a dick in the Porta Johns. Like I just literally spent, 8 months drawing dicks in Porta Johns. I thought that was.
If you've ever seen Superbad, when he gets caught with like the journal of all the wieners, like that was this guy's like, it was his thing. Like he was veins and all. Like it was impressive.
Very realistic.
Yes. Oh,
he's very artistic. Very artistic, which ties into what he does now because he has a very artistic or like side business now.
He does.
Yeah. I mean,
he does.
Depending on how much we drink, we might put the person's name, but a lot of people know over time. He is a very artistic guy. Him and his wife are doing some really cool stuff actually, and we'll give him a plug for that later. But the vein, it was very. I remember the picture was very accurate. But yeah, no, but that's cool. But I mean, but still, it's time away from home. I mean, you get back. I mean, was that the point you said you weren't doing much? What were you guys doing? I mean, I got to imagine you were a lot of bonding going on with you guys.
I mean, it honestly was nice. We were at the Kuwaiti Naval Base. Kuwait's a very rich country. It's a beautiful base. I mean, we were on the Persian Gulf. Like they had Olympic-sized swimming pool, soccer pitch. I mean, it was nice. It was very much not your normal deployment. So I mean, it was fun. We worked. We had two platoons there. We worked 4 on, 2 off, and we were on 12-hour shifts, and we just alternated with the other platoon. So, we had internet. We had a chow hall. I mean, we had it the whole 9 yards. So it was not a bad deployment, especially as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, we left the base for like one mini mission, and then I think we went into Kuwait City one time.
So is there any thought like, I mean, it was easy, but is there any thought like you're having like you just got out of AIT? I feel like you're like,
there really was a
tough.
sense
you want
of
to
like,
go like you want to start.
Yeah, there was
like
a sense
you said
of
you
like,
want to start targeting people. Like, did you feel like a little let down about the deployment, or was it?
It was a little weird because we did get combat pay for some reason in Kuwait, and so there was a group of. Yeah.
The only thing is, I was looking at somebody else here, and he just started like crazy. So now he's got 20,000. He's getting combat pay for being in Kuwait, playing soccer. This is great. Yeah.
It was a joke.
River Rider joined the army.
Yes, seriously. But we, there's a group of us who refused to wear our combat patches because we were too proud to not, associate ourselves with actual combat veterans of, and so there was this aspect of like, man, I want to go do something. I want to actually feel, especially as an 18-year-old, you're kind of excited to go do something. But then there was an ounce of like, okay, well, I get to go home and, it's pretty safe here. Take it was like perspective.
So I guess like there's like good and bad about it, which is
sure.
I just feel like the time. I think it'd be hard to go and do that. We have a couple people that where you're going there and you're not really doing a lot, which is good in the big picture of things, but you're also kind of like a little bit bored and out of your, you're being taken out of being at home and like progressing with your life, and you're doing something that's at the time doesn't seem super important. But I have to say that as another veteran, I think a lot of people say that is you should be ashamed of that. That is a lot more than a lot of people have done, and you guys should definitely except for the guy we're talking about, feel good about wearing your combat patch from that. I still can't. We definitely have to say his name before we get off. I'm sorry. I just keep laughing about that. But so you said before you went on deployment. You were there.
Mm-hmm.
What was the total time? You were there pretty for a long period of time. It was like 3 months at Fort Hood, and then
3 months at Fort Hood, and then like it was like 8.5 to 9. It was almost a year altogether. Yeah. So it was like 9 months and 8.5 in country,
right. Which is a long. I mean, it's a pretty good deployment. I mean, on top of things. So you come back to Ohio, and then now you start getting back on with your civilian life, which is to go to the Ohio State University, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I did a small stint at Hollister. Wasn't good looking enough to be on a floor model, so I was in the back folding shirts for a couple months, and then I got into Ohio State. Actually, it's funny, I didn't have the grades from high school to get into Ohio State, which is kind of one of the reasons I joined the military. I didn't have terrible grades, but definitely not good. But I applied as a transfer student from basic training, like from the Army, and I don't know how it works. Someone told me to do it, and it worked, and I got in. I started spring of what was that, spring of 09, I believe it was.
What you don't realize right now is all of Ohio that's listening to this, they're telling their kids, like, you're going just so you can get to Ohio State. We go to basic training. You can get in there as a transfer. Your ACT, you only got an 18. You only got an 18 on the ACT, son. You're joining the Army. You can get in there. You're gonna have to go to Kuwait for a little bit. It'll be no big deal. But no, that's interesting. I've never heard that either.
I had never heard of it either. But
so transfer from that's interesting. That's pretty cool. Learn something new every day. So you spent a couple years doing that, right? Were you like, were you just full immersed as a student, or
no? I had jobs. I worked ever since I was probably like 14 years old. But I did some landscaping for a family friend, and then my family business. We have a blacktop paving business. So in the summertime, I would work doing blacktop paving. So it was hot, long summers.
Yeah, that sounds like a miserable.
Yeah, it was, but it was kind of, it kind of taught you some hard work, and it paid well. You get on a city job and make like $30 an hour again as like at this time I was probably 19 or 20. So
dude, by the time you sound like you're just raking in cash by the time you're 20, the bonus, combat
it was
pay.
Nice, yeah. And I was thankful, like I had parents who cared and like, made sure I like put it in the bank. It wasn't buying cars or
eggs or
toilet paper. Yeah. So yeah, I was very fortunate to have
lower on retainer. Like,
yeah.
I still can't believe. I just laugh about that because my dad, and then he's gonna kill me, but we'll talk about it someday. I think I might have already said it, but he got into a little bit of trouble when he was younger, and then we tried to enlist to avoid getting drafted to Vietnam. That came up. I don't think he had to tell them. I think it came up. So it delayed his time to become a military police, which you eventually did, Dad. Great job. You way to fight through it. It's awesome. So you're there a couple years, and like you're rolling. You're like, a couple more years, I'm gonna graduate, and then the Ohio National Guard again decides to deploy you, right?
Yeah. They pulled the string again. So we found out a good amount in advance. I feel like I can't remember what it was, but we knew it was coming for a while. There was talks of it. We weren't sure where we were going, but yeah, we went. I was home for 2 years, so this would have been September of 2011. We deployed to Afghanistan. So a little bit of a different experience in Kuwait.
Did you find out from somebody else other than your mother, or did they?
Yeah. So I was thankfully in my unit at this time, so I got to break the news to my mom, which was worse.
Yeah, that's
she
not
had found out first. But
did you ever find out the opposite, that your mom did find out about your first deployment, or was it like on the news, or how did she find out? Did you ever?
She was part of the like the FRG meetings that they would have, like the family readiness group. So, every month they would have a meeting to kind of. They had told us, I don't know. I mean, I technically wasn't in the unit yet, so they wouldn't have told me anyways. But
right.
But yeah, she found out before I did. But yeah, this one, we knew it in advance, and so it was nice because I was able to kind of brace her and say, hey, there's talks of a deployment coming up, and then throughout the course of several months, be able to kind of give her more information. Yeah. So it wasn't like a hammer all at once of bad information.
Didn't like rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like, so Jordan brought up a term that the FRG, so family readiness groups. So those are groups that usually like go down to like company level, pretty much. I think where you have meetings, regular meetings, sometimes monthly, quarterly, where they bring together the family members and talk about all that kind of stuff. Pretty interesting meetings, because like you said, it's funny that they found out to talk about the deployment. Your mom's there like,
yeah.
I have a feeling that would be a bad right. Walking up the company man like, what? My son isn't even at a base. My ex-husband said he was never going to leave here. No, but they're cool meetings. They're and when you're deployed, they do a lot of great things. And it's usually the service members, spouses that do that and run it when they're done. But they do great things for people that are back home, and they do pass on really good messages to the family and keep them informed and things like that. So great term. We never talked about that before, so that's cool. I'm glad you found out from the official channels, not from
it was some
for the second one. So you went to Afghanistan this time, Ghazni, right?
Yeah.
Which is a Polish, like a Polish fire base or post mainly.
Yeah, it was primarily a Polish FOB. So we were at FOB Ghazni, which was like the primary base in Ghazni province, which was on the far eastern side of Afghanistan. So I think we butted up to Pakistan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I can't
I
remember.
can't
We were.
remember
I mean,
what
we
I was
were a bit away.
You weren't in
So,
Kuwait.
you know.
That's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
right.
There was no soccer fields.
Right. It was very different,
No
but
pools.
still we had luxuries. Other, little.
What are these luxuries? Something like,
Well, we had a chow. Like 15 minutes south of us, there was a little like outpost that ate MREs all day.
Yeah.
And they were just literally a 15-minute drive away. So it was like we had air conditioning units and heating units. We lived in like wooden huts essentially, but we had 4 walls and a roof, and this base 15 minutes south had tents that they slept in. So it was just like, it was kind of crazy to like see the difference. Like you literally drive down the road and it's like they're living like,
you're like, thank God I'm out there.
Exactly. But it definitely was different than Kuwait.
So this deployment was the Porta John artist with you on this one, or
He was not. So he
Okay.
ETS at this point. He was gone.
He left. So
He did his duty literally and then left.
I'm just upset that people of Afghanistan weren't able to share in his artistic work. But
Yeah, it was sad. I don't think anybody ever carried on that tradition either. But he was talked about for many years. So.
Which is good. So there you're on the Polish base. So did you guys get to do? There's a platoon there. You guys were doing what you were supposed to be doing, some military type,
Yeah. So
support contractors. What were you guys?
Yeah,
doing?
we weren't doing an artillery mission, so we deployed as well. Our brigade deployed, but we were sent as a platoon. There's 26 of us to this FOB, and so we were doing convoy security for military contractors. So basically, we would drive them around to the different bases, different FOBs throughout Ghazni, and they would check up on the building projects, and we would provide security for them while they're there, to and from. And we called ourselves a glorified taxi service. So
with a lot of guns, a lot of
guns, a little bit more of an interesting mission. But everyone came home, so that was
no chance to shoot any mortars over there. Nothing.
What's that?
No rounds downrange from the mortars.
Not from us. No. I mean, we took fire a lot,
Yeah.
but like we never shot anything. In terms of, I don't even know if our FOB had artillery guns at all. Or
You
mortars.
didn't take your.
No. We weren't on our artillery mission. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, we haven't deployed like Ohio, like that 134 had never gone on like an artillery mission overseas since like I don't even know. It was like decades and decades.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So I mean, it was pretty normal. But to us, we were like, why can't we do an artillery mission?
Why can't we bring the mortars?
Right. So
why are we leaving those mortars? Those things are so cool. So from the time you were when in AIT like 2007, were you guys still shooting mortars here to train and all that stuff? Hopefully, yeah.
They're cannons.
Right.
So let me correct you.
Okay, you weren't a mortarman. Okay,
correct.
Sorry.
So mortars are like the size of this like bourbon bottle here.
A little bit bigger than that. But.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I assumed that you were mortarman, but that's okay.
So they're very different. So we, cannons, artillery pieces, they're a lot bigger. We were on the 119ers. So I think they were like, I want to say 6 miles maybe was their like range or so. Now, I think now the unit switched over to 777s, which are like the new ones. And I think we sent those over to Ukraine and stuff, and they're pretty badass. So, but no, we never got to deploy with them, but we would do our advanced training our yearly training in the summers. We would go up to Grayling.
That's in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think we went to Indiana once, if I remember correctly, or maybe it was Grayling twice. But I think I only shot twice outside of AIT because we were deploying like every couple of years. So we wouldn't do an artillery. Our artillery stint in the summer, we would get ready for deployment.
So your buildups, they were training you more on not what you as being an artilleryman, but more.
Yeah. So if when we came back from a deployment, we came back from Kuwait in the end of 2009. So I think it was 2010 in the summer. We went to Grayling and did an artillery mission up there and did training because we didn't have anything on the radar. But I think it was maybe we did in 20. No, yeah. So I don't know. We did it twice, but once they catch wind of like a deployment coming up, then they kind of switch gears to
what you're actually going to be doing.
Yeah.
You have to forget about those mortarmen. You guys are now, what do you call it? Yeah, glorified. The newer word is now glorified Uber because like taxis
well,
like
we
falling
weren't-
out on
Well,
it.
yeah,
but, like,
Uber wasn't around back then.
I know, but now
Well,
you got to say
maybe
Uber for all the
not
people
here.
to listen. They might not
Yeah.
remember what a taxi is. But a taxi is for when they didn't. It wasn't somebody else's personal car, which
It was yellow.
was not always yellow, but
The MRAPs are kind of a yellowish
that's
tan,
true. Yeah,
so
that's true.
It really was similar.
That's true. So you were just mainly just dealing with the contractors there. What was it like
Yeah.
working with the Poles? Did you ever work with them all, or just kind of
We never actually worked with them, but we would interact with them. Some guys made some trades, had some Polish vodka. We got along with them really well. There were a lot of units coming in and out of our base. It was kind of a bigger base for the area, so there were a lot of units that were like coming from South Afghanistan up and then flying out of Afghanistan, well, going through Ghazni and then going over to like, one of the bigger bases,
Right.
Bagram or something to actually fly out. So we would see a lot of turnover of different units. Some units would run missions out of our base. There was a SEAL team attached to the base for a long time. So we saw a lot of different units come in. It was kind of interesting. Every month there would be new groups of people that we'd have to kind of get to know a little bit. And I mean, we didn't really work with them on a day-to-day, but
just hung out with them.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean,
Yeah.
we got to know them, and especially the Poles that were there, we got to interact with them a lot, and they were stationed there for a long time that we were. So, yeah.
You got vodka from him, which is always good, right?
Yeah, I did.
What'd you guys trade for?
I did. I'm sorry.
He's like, I didn't drink vodka. He's like, they.
Well, I was 20. I was a good kid to a degree on the outside.
So you drank you didn't drink no vodka when you were over.
I did
You're
not,
out of the army now.
no. I drank Rippets.
Rip,
Yeah.
rip it.
Yeah, that was my vodka. No, I was 20 and I turned 21 over there. So no vodka on my 21st. But a friend got me a cake from the chow hall, and they put shaving cream on the HESCO barriers, like happy birthday. And they put streamers in my bedroom. It was cute. It was really fun.
Sounds so romantic.
Yeah, it was. It was that candlelight dinner for me, and a couple of them danced later in the night.
That's cool. I mean, to recognize that. That's pretty neat.
No, it's fun.
So, and age-wise, were you one of the younger guys in the platoon, or?
So that was kind of funny. In Kuwait, I was like definitely the youngest, or top, bottom 2 or 3 people. But in Afghanistan, I was kind of in the middle because there's only 26 of us. So, our lieutenant, our smoke was there, E7, and there's a couple squad leaders that were there that were all older. But me and a couple other guys were like right in the middle, and there was like some 18-year-olds that were with us, which was interesting.
Which is crazy. Yeah, which is crazy when you talk about when a lot of people, you talk about deployments of at 21 or 20, you're in the middle of a group of 26 people. There's a lot of young people, and I think that's what a lot of people forget is people. Even like my son just turned 22, and that was the same age that I got commissioned at. It's crazy to think about how young you are at the time. But yeah, there's 18-year-olds and. I mean, kids are just like
it's weird to be a 20 or 21-year-old and you're kind of like looked up to a degree. Like you've been in for several years, and it's like I'm like I don't know what I'm doing. Like
I was in Kuwait, guys. Come on,
easy now.
No, but it is interesting. I think a lot of times we talk about the age of you always like when I was company commander, you like look at people's ages and you're like, oh my god, this kid's like just turned 18 like 4 months. It's crazy. I mean, it's like you're like they're so young and then you're like I'm 22. I'm 26. I'm not that old. And then like you're like that's old. So you brought up a term smoke, right?
Yeah.
So for people to know, that's what you guys in the field artillery call a platoon sergeant, right? Is that kind of the term? So that's a little bit the same. Yeah. They call them smoke. It's a kind of cool little artillery thing. Artillery does have a lot of.
We had a good. He was solid. On that deployment, he was a little wild in some not the best ways, but as a soldier, I think he was like a guard soldier of the year at one point. I mean, he was very square away when it came to artillery, which was cool. But we weren't in an artillery mission, so a lot of it was not applicable to us.
Yeah, were you a little irritated with that though? I mean, you go over there. Did you guys want to be putting rounds down range, or what was?
Definitely, but I think, like I said before, it had never happened, so we never really. It not being an artillery mission was not that surprising. So to us, we're like, this is way cooler than Kuwait. Like, You know, like we took it for what it was. So
Right, which makes sense. Yeah, I think it's that same thing. But you've trained to do something, and then like like anything, and then you're not getting to do it.
Yeah.
It's always that little bit of like a
yeah,
frustration. I can see.
yeah,
That.
it was. I mean, it would be awesome to go on a toy mission,
Yeah.
put rounds down range, and really kind of feel like you get to do something and make a difference.
Well, I mean, that's a good question. So you don't feel like what you were doing, you made a difference at all?
It's a little bit more maybe indirect of a difference.
All
You
right.
know, if you're shooting rounds down range because someone calls in for a fire mission, you
Yeah.
have an impact, like literally and figuratively. But like you're doing something to save a life. You know, where us
Or take a life, one of the two.
well, depending on what side
the
you're
same
on,
thing,
yeah. But you know, I mean, what we did, I'm not saying we didn't make a difference. I think in the grand scheme of things, we did something, but it's a little bit more of an indirect kind of difference. You don't see the product of it. You know, you don't. You know, in the end, yes, maybe a base was built because we had contractors out there that were signing off on things or checking the progress of a base. But it, you know, I don't look back on my time and I'm ashamed of it. But it's not.
Yeah, what was your impact? I mean, that's like, what do you think was your impact? What do you think if you look back as you're getting older now, you got kids. If your kids ask you, what did you do in Afghanistan? What impact did you make? What would you tell them?
That's a good question. That's tough. I mean, I would say the older I get, the more it's a weird thing, and it's probably is different for some people, but I don't like the term proud. I think there's this weird connotation of like a self-righteousness in it. And I think there is a pride in a sense of like an okay pride to have of like, I am proud that I served. I don't think I was a phenomenal soldier specifically, but the longer I get away from it, the older I get, I look back on that time and I am excited that I could just say that I did something, and it might not have been the most glorious mission ever, but I'm excited to be able to tell my kids that and show them pictures someday. And I can look back on it with some ounce of pride, I guess. But
I think you have to be proud. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast is, you were kind of one of the reluctant people to come on initially. So I asked you really early on and you didn't, and kept saying like a lot of people like, I didn't really do anything. But I think you definitely should be proud. I mean, if you took the oath to serve this country, no matter, and especially if you deployed, to Kuwait, any of these places like this, you did what a lot of people didn't do. And the indirect mission is important too. I mean, not everybody could be, kicking indoors and killing Osama bin Laden, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that behind the scenes that are equally important. So I think that is natural as you get older to feel that way. You start to look back and reflect on it and realize that like, well, what I did wasn't normal. Like, going to Afghanistan and staying in a Polish fob.
It's a good
isn't
point.
a normal thing.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, I think the older I get, I think the more I do appreciate it for sure. I think it's one of those things where I was over there, I think so young. And so I was more interested in doing something like kicking indoors and shooting guns. And so to not come home, to come home and end a career, like not doing that, you kind of feel a little kind of down. But I mean, the older you get, you're like, I made it home. Everyone that was with me made it home. Like, I'm thankful for that. And
well, the good thing is you probably have really good hearing because you weren't firing the cannons all the time.
It's very true. Yeah. Actually, my hearing's not the greatest, but I can't blame it on artillery. So.
You have all your limbs. It's good to go. I mean, that's a check. No, I mean, but I think, and I think it's funny you bring that up because it's one of the topics I think, again, why I did this is I think a lot of veterans kind of downplay what they've done and kind of, they watch a movie or talk to someone and feel like that what they did wasn't important, and I have to say that we make a lot of jokes about everybody. Everybody that took the oath is my brother and sister forever, and we are a special breed, and you should definitely be proud. And we talked to River and Ryder about that, and then the new baby, which is coming soon.
Yeah.
Do we know if it's a boy or a girl yet?
We know that it is a boy.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Yeah. So
are we keeping the R theme?
We are keeping the R theme.
Okay.
We don't have a name set. I really like Remington.
You weren't going to throw it on your wife right now, like we're going to make the name right now.
Well, I don't think she's watching because I told her you'd have to get in the group and you might not get it accepted in the group and all
That's
that
not
stuff.
true. We'll accept her. She's.
She did ask if you could watch it, but no, we did keep the R theme. I really was hunting for Russell. she wouldn't take Russell. But
So that has to obviously come from
yeah,
the whiskey, right?
naturally.
God, that would be such a great name.
I feel like
I'm
Russell's
supporting
just
that. Like, let's
I
vote in the
know.
room. Who thinks Russell would be a good name? I think we've got.
Thank you.
I think we voted.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's a strong
Lindsay,
name.
that's the name. His name is
Yeah.
Russell. Congratulations.
Well, it's off the books, unfortunately. She had I don't know. It wasn't a boyfriend or anything. She just knew a Russell that there was a relationship there she didn't like, and so
I don't know a lot of Russ.
I don't either.
I know Russ, and my son's baseball coach is
yeah.
Russ. I don't think his real name is Russell. Maybe it is. I don't know. But
We like Remington though. That's kind of the top of the list. We're gonna call him Remy. So,
no, all right.
But I mean, we got.
Don't
time.
give up on Russell.
All right, I'll see what I can do. Sure. Remy with an R.
Remy's good though. So Lindsay, don't give up on Russell. It's a good quality name. It's on a lot of bottles. It'll be really nice. It'll be.
As I say, we can get all this memorabilia for him.
It'll be great. I have some shirts I have it on there. We can get on that. No, that's cool. But so we jumped into the family thing real quick. But Jordan has 2 little ones, another one on the way. And married to his wife Lindsay, obviously. So which you met here. Were you married? When did you get married? That's one question I had. What year did you get married?
We got married in May of 2016.
So you married on this deployment?
No.
The second one or after?
No. So I was in from 06 to 2012.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All
so
right.
like I said, I'm old.
Dang, yeah, he's not a young 16. I'm like, that's when I went to 14. I'm getting old, man. Jeez, I gotta start doing this. I gotta stop having you young guys. I've been trying to get my dad on here where I feel young. All the Vietnam guys. Got to get in here. A couple World War II guys. I'll feel like a baby.
Yeah, we got married in 2016. So going on what? I don't even know what it is. Can't do that. 6 years.
So you go back to deployment. You guys have done that. You're not doing what you thought you were going to do. But if you were to say one thing about what was the most challenging thing at the during your deployment in Afghanistan?
For me or for collectively or what?
We don't care about anybody else. This is about you.
So I would say for me, it would probably be, it was probably figuring out how to be over there and keep my faith in God, which was and is and has always been a big part of my story. That was a challenge. I would say that coupled with the fact that like my serious girlfriend broke up with me at the time, which is the normal, typical like military story.
Yeah.
So
good riddance.
Yeah. No, we're still kind of friends today. So
Lindsay, that's a lie. He's not friends with her.
No, she knows.
No, I'm kidding.
She knows.
No, I'm joking.
No, but I think just being over there, kind of feeling alone and keeping the faith was challenging, but there were a lot of great things that came from that.
So what was hard about keeping faith over there? I mean, so he's like, it's funny how I always love how we talk a little bit before and do that. And that was one of the questions later on. Faith has always been important to you and your wife. So like, what was the struggle with faith? Just what you're doing, or like, what was I think
it was
the struggle?
It was making your faith your own. I think for a lot of reasons. I was involved in a high school ministry called Young Life.
Yeah.
So throughout actual high school, I was a participant of Young Life. That's where I came to become a Christian and know the Lord. And then when I got into college, I became a Young Life leader. And so I was placed at a high school to lead kids and, do the whole 9 yards and everything. So, I was surrounded with other Christians. I lived in a house on college with several Christians, some of my best friends, even today. So you go from this experience of just having this group of like fellowship, your best friends who are all like following the same thing.
I think the same way you think.
And then you're completely in a different group of people. And so it was just challenging being kind of on your own, kind of in the desert, literally, and trying to keep the faith and have a personal like faith alone without having being able to wake up and talk about something with your best friend.
Right.
So yeah, it was hard. But it was really fun. I got to start a Bible study with some guys. Some guys kind of like came to their faith again after kind of leaving it for a long time. So it was really encouraging to see the Lord kind of working in the midst of a trying time for me, but actually some fruit come from it. So
Right. Yeah. It's funny. 'Cause I not in faith. I'm not strong in faith. I believe, but I'm not anywhere near where I should be or what people think. But it's one of those things where I call the same thing, but not through faith. I told my kids it's like growing up. Like you're gonna, it's very easy. So for a certain time of your life, that you surround yourself with people that think the same way as you do. That's who you're attracted. That's who you gravitate to. You have the same things, but all of a sudden, whether it's faith or just like those normal things, like I went to military school, so all those guys and gals, we all thought the same, and then like all of a sudden we leave and you go out into the real world, and all of a sudden you're like, holy shit,
yeah, you're out of your bubble.
What my next door neighbor in Killeen is a golf pro and smokes weed every day. This is what what I mean. And I think it's a part of growing up. I mean, whether it's like if you're strong in faith or like you're in the military or whatever, I think that's a hard part of I always challenge my kid with my kids now is I want them to be with different people, like different people that think different than them.
I think it's important for sure.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, I have one Nate. I'm going to call you out. He just gravitates towards the same type people. Like, if you don't think like him, he's like he has no time for you. And I'm like, and I keep telling him like, dude, at a certain time, like
you got to have a balance. I mean, you got to have a core group that you can lean on and run to. But you got to break out of your shell. You got to experience different beliefs, different people's opinions, because you're going to get hit with that in the real world. And I think there was a benefit of going to Kuwait so early because I was hit with that.
Yeah.
And then I got to come home and kind of like regroup, and then going to Afghanistan, it kind of softened the blow a little bit because I was used to it to some degree. So I think it was just, I was challenged with questions at that point too, of like, why do you believe this? Why do you believe that? And so I think it was just stuff I didn't experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is true. I think it's all the time about surrounding. It is easiest. It's always a comfort factor, but then like, if I think about if I was around people that think the same way with me, it'd be bad. So I'm kind of glad that I've branched out and people have different things and different ages and all that kind of stuff. But I could see with the faith thing that could be a really challenging thing to do. And then it is funny you bring that up. I was always challenging because like when you're in the military and you're religious, there's a lot of questions get thrown your way.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that was the hard but also kind of like rewarding part. Is it like it was challenging to be asked questions I've never really thought about before, or be in a situation, an environment that isn't normal.
Right.
People asking those faith-based questions, but in the end, it got me to think outside the box. It got me to consider things about the Lord that I had never considered before, and learn those answers and have to find them out myself. So it was a blessing in the end, but it was very, very difficult, in the midst of it for sure. But
what a good journey. I mean, that's a good journey to talk to your kids about as you grow older. And it's funny, the military, when you talked about that in the military, I thought about when I was, we were at Gunnery in Fort Hood, and we're all hanging out, and it was the middle of the night, and we were actually listening to Howard Stern on the radio, and he was blaring. If you never listened to Howard Stern on the radio, it was like early in the morning, listen to it. And one of my friends, Mark, was from New Jersey, so we knew that. And we somehow, like, I guess he just got syndicated out there. This is because that's how old I am about stuff, like getting the radio stations. But we're sitting there blasting Howard Stern, and like up walks the battalion chaplain. And back then Howard Stern talking about like hookers and all this kind of stuff. And he walks up, we're like, sir, like, I don't think you want to hear this. And he's like, no, like, I want to know what the men are, and I remember sitting there, we're just like, he's talking about like butt bongo fiesta, and we're like, oh my God, man. Like, and you're kind of worried like that they're going to tell on you, but but it's really cool to
if you have a cool chaplain, it makes or breaks the deployment. We didn't have one permanently with us, but he came and visited numerous times, and he was great. And he was the same way. He was like, I don't want you guys talking differently or treat me different. He's like, I just want to be here and hang out with you guys. And I think that's what is really cool.
Right. And the other chaplain that made a huge impact, there's two that were kind of funny when we talk about faith and stuff. It was like, if anyone's ever seen Black Hawk Down, Sergeant Jeff Stryker, he became my chaplain in the 82nd as a captain. So you should look him up. I'm pretty sure he won the Silver Star, a lot of other stuff from the Battle of Mogadishu, and it was funny to see him, as a chaplain. Because the funny thing is, if no one's been in the military, when the chaplain is talking, or everyone kind of, I'm gonna probably get struck by lightning by saying, but some people are like, Oh my God. Like, the chaplains here, like, holy cow. Because
Yeah.
some chaplains, when I was in, they were like direct commissionees.
Yeah.
They had no military experience. And then you had other ones that were like, had like Jeff that had, been in like the worst of the fucking worst at that point. And so like people are like, oh God, it's the chaplain. I remember we were at Green Ramp and he was, bringing everybody in like for prayer and stuff before this jump or whatever and talking. And like all these 19, 18-year-olds are like, whatever, like, and he like was like, hey, airborne. I'm about to pray. And like, just as like, if you don't want to pray, you can meet me back over there and we'll talk about it. And like everybody like shut down. Like everybody's like, because the guy's had, Ranger scroll on his shoulder. I mean, he'd been, he's in books and movies and it was pretty cool. But then it is interesting. Like that was the hard thing about, even, I had a hard time with religion, when I was in the Army, just because of, what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to explain if you've never been there. You're supposed to have faith in this, and then you're doing not so great stuff. Yeah. So it's one of those weird things. But you did take one of my questions about faith. Faith is important. Faith. You and your wife now are still pretty active. You guys lead a community Bible study, right? You were doing that last night.
Yeah, at our church. So we've been members of our church for a while, and we lead a group on Wednesdays through our church, and it's a highlight of our week for sure. It's hard. It's enjoyable, but inviting people to your home and to a degree kind of being responsible to like lead them in a sense. And there's a responsibility there that is, we don't take lightly, but it's really fun. Some of our best friends are in the group. So,
So are you the young person in the group or the old timers now?
So we kind of are actually on the older end, which is fun. My wife's actually older than me, so she's a cougar.
Nice.
And I tell her that a lot. We're on the older end in our group, which is fun. And again, it's funny, like being as young as I am, but being in that situation, you're kind of like, what life have I lived to be able to like be the leader of this? But
I think you look back. I mean, I'm going to hype you up a little bit because you're being very modest. But
no, I understand. But
you deployed. I mean, you just talked about a couple of things. The young life. I mean, you did a lot of stuff, and then we'll talk about something else. I think another subject that deals with your wife. But your wife in 2017 was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So again, another thing that challenges what I would say is faith. That's I guess my challenge to faith is always like you look and like there's some real dick bags that nothing ever happens to them, and then you see like a 3-year-old kid getting cancer, and I've always been like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, so
for sure.
You say you haven't, you're not. I mean, your life has led you to being able to communicate to that people. You've had your challenge with faith, young, deploying, and then obviously with your wife having cancer. I mean, that had to rattle. Did that rattle your faith at all, also, or? How does that work?
A little bit, yeah. It was weird. I mean, it was a weird thing to process individually and then together, because I think we both kind of like had our own experiences with it and dealt with it separately, but then obviously we dealt with it together for sure. So I think for me, it wasn't so much a question of like, is God good, but more so like afraid of like knowing what could happen and still like knowing that I need to believe that like God is still good from it. Right. So I think it was a really kind of like eye-opening experience of like, this could end the way I don't want it to end, but I don't think that's not going to change my view on who God is. And that's what's scary is it would be easy to just be like, you're not a good God if you allow this to happen. So it was a weird tension of like trying to keep the faith, but have a reality of knowing the worst case scenario and be able to process that with her. And I think she definitely had her own fights with it, but she handled it like a champ for sure. So she was encouraging to me in a lot of ways.
And I think that's the last time I was hanging. I mean, we've hung out before, but I was hanging at your house like right toward the end of that. And it was just crazy to think about. But I mean, I feel it differently. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I would just be like angry. I always get angry when I hear stuff that happens to good people, and
I think my story ended happily, So right. I think I can't say for sure what my experience would be if it didn't end that way, but I don't blame anybody for thinking that way, because I mean I definitely had my moments of screaming and yelling and crying for sure.
I can imagine.
So Yeah.
So I think it's time, before we get a little bit deeper into that, I think it's time for whiskey number 2. What do you think?
Yeah,
You ready?
love it.
Your glass is
Let's do
looking
it.
empty there.
Yeah.
I'll let you pour it first. Don't give Jason any until he gets it
Yeah.
last. We'll pass on. But we're going to talk about our second family-owned distillery. Still, we've talked about them a little bit before, but Heaven Hill. I'm kind of repping today. Heaven Hill, New Riff. I was trying to match it there, but New Riff, Heaven Hill, like we talked about before, is a American family-owned distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky. Was founded in 1935. Like we said before, it's the 7th largest alcohol supplier in the U.S., 2nd largest holder of bourbon inventory in the world, and it's still the largest independently owned and operated producer of distilled spirits in Kentucky. And like we said before, and if you don't know, they have tons of brands. Heaven Hill, which we're not have it here, but you got Larson, Old Fitzgerald, Elijah Craig. We picked one because for a new barrel we just got in for the group here in the restaurant here. We're going with the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof OPA's America's Guard of Honor to honor the 82nd Airborne. It was 82nd pick at OPA, so it's kind of a good number to throw in there. This one's a little bit older than what we had before. It's 8 years old. The proof is 133.6. The mash bill, a little bit lower than we had before, but 78% corn, or 78% corn, 10% rye, so a little bit lower than within 12% malted barley. And this program started in 2021, the barrel strength program. Before that, I had some bottles up here to talk about progressing, but this used to be all they offered. It was a 94 proof. What they did in 2021 is decide to go to barrel proof, which they used to have their own selections of these. They release these 3 times a year. They went to the it's got to work its way back. I didn't get it. Oh, there it is. And then they went to the newer one now. And what's cool about this is in 2021 they revamped it to allow the barrel proof option. They also are now age stated, and they also have the single barrel actually on the bottle to eliminate a lot of confusion. So it's cool for the big nerds of bourbon. It kind of eliminated a lot of stuff here. If you looked at this still says small batch, but it's actually a single. I'm sorry, this one here is small batch, but it's actually a single barrel. So they did a really good job of I would say bringing in the whole brand. So I haven't had this yet. I'm excited since we picked it. So you can give it to Jason now, I guess. Make sure you get the last.
No, you're good. I'll wait.
No, I gotta go. It's fine. We'll have that. So now I'm excited to have this one.
Well, you're not going to cheers. Come on.
Oh, well, I've been waiting to try that. Oh, it's so good. So good. Good one, though. So we'll get back to that. So, your wife went through that 2017.
Yep.
You guys make it through that. You guys put having the family on hold, right?
Yeah. We didn't know with the type of cancer and everything, the type of treatment she was getting. We didn't know what the situation with kids. Yeah. We had desire to have kids for sure, but that was obviously put on hold for a bit. And I think she ended treatment it would have been the end of 2018, December 2018 was the end of her treatment. So it was about 1.5 years worth of treatment she got.
So is that so the cancer thing with Lindsay, and that you were starting at Nationwide at the same time, right? Or no?
I was at Nationwide. I was at Nationwide in 2015.
Okay.
So I was there for a couple years. And thankfully, they were awesome. They gave me very flexible to be able to go to her appointments and take time off and everything. Yeah. And so that was a blessing for sure. And especially, she had surgery and then she got an infection, and then, during her first treatments and stuff, it was just not easy. Her body didn't take that well. So, so there was very much a blessing to have flexibility to stay home and take time off for sure. But
yeah, Nationwide's hubs here, or the headquarters here in Columbus area. So are you ready to do the Nationwide? Can you go Nationwide?
Yeah, I
on
think,
your side, or
Peyton Manning's in the
back, I think you could do it better than Peyton, but is he still doing it? I wonder. It's kind of
he still has a contract, but he's not actually. It's a Brad Paisley. Is that?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that's true. I think they both are still contracted.
Yeah, they were doing some cool commercials.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah. So like Jordan said, he was working there 2015. Up until a big career move. So this is a whole new, this is why, one of the reasons why I wanted to have him on, because this is interesting. You're working at Nationwide, doing claims adjuster. And then you decide in 2020 that you've had enough of Nationwide. Yeah. And now you want to pursue a career in law enforcement.
Yeah.
So what prompted that?
Yeah, I just was really pissed off that I didn't become an MP and just no. I don't. It's funny. Like I knew that question would come, and I get asked that, and I don't know if I can answer that like specifically.
Because last time I asked you,
Yeah.
you kind of ducked it. Now you can't. You're on camera.
Yeah, I know.
What was your thought process? You had to have a thought process to leave.
Sure,
I mean, your wife just got got cleared from
Yeah.
cancer.
Things that nationwide were going well and
Right.
everything, but I think I got to a point. Where I had realized I don't love sitting in front of a desk. And I think my time in the military, like reflecting back on that, I had enjoyed kind of the physical aspect of having a job that is kind of doing something a little bit more exciting. And as much as I like the convenience of Nationwide and the lifestyle it gave me, I kind of wanted to just experience something more. And so for the police, the recruiting process is like 9 months long. So you kind of have like every month or every couple months, you kind of have another step. So when I started the process, I didn't know if we were going to fall through with it, but it was such a long process. I was like, let's do it. Let's start it. We prayed, we talked a lot about it. And so for 9 months leading up to the academy, we were kind of like back and forth all the time of, do we want to do this? Do we not? Like, what are the pros? What are the cons? And we had talked to a lot of people about it. So it was a lot of back and forth. It wasn't like I'm doing this. This is my lifelong dream. It was like, I want to try something new. It'd be a cool way to serve the community. And
all right. So how old were you at this point?
Well, this would have been.
It was 2 years ago. So do the math. I know you're an artillery.
Yeah, 30.
Average age as fast.
31. But I guess 30 when I started the process.
So so this goes back. Now you're the old time police recruit.
Now I was.
You're like Tackleberry.
Well, there was
like
a 49-year-old guy in our class.
Dude, I'm 49. Don't be making jokes.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you can go through the academy at this point.
Come on. It's only the Ohio. I'm joking.
It was. If you made it through basic, you make it through the police academy.
It's no, I'm joking. But 40, they make it feel old now. Like 49. There's a 49-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think you can go through this at
that's
21,
a late
22.
time.
So yeah, he was like, at that point, you got to think like, I'm making a massive career move toward you should be kind of winding down to retirement within the next 10 years. Like, and this guy's doing something that, he's not going to,
that's one bitter dude. Do you remember you got to look him over the police department and see what he's doing. He's like,
well, the funny thing is he dropped out.
Probably. Yeah.
But he joined back. He got in 2 classes later. He decided he wanted to come back, and he got it. And now he's graduated. He's on the streets now. So crazy story.
There's no
Gunner
way.
White, if you're listening, you're a good guy.
Yeah.
So we liked him.
Bust head,
awesome.
dude. He's like 50 now. He's out there just busting.
Oh, he's definitely. You don't want to get stopped by him.
I can't. Can you imagine being a 50-year-old rookie? They're thinking you're like you roll up to the scene, right, and he's there, and they're looking at him to be fans, and you're like, he's like, dude, I've been doing this for 2 weeks. You didn't talk to that dude over there.
That 24-year-old, he's the veteran.
That guy's been doing this for 4 years. I have no idea what I'm doing. That's my training guy. That's my training guy. That's funny. No, but I think that's crazy. So you decided, you and your wife decided to give it a shot.
Yeah.
It was funny that that was the last time I think I saw you graduate. Was like super excited about that, and then like I thought I saw you maybe like 3 months ago or so, maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And then like I was like, how's the police force going? And
yeah, it was like non-existent.
Non-existent. I was like, what? I was like, shit, I didn't read about you in the Compass Dispatch.
Yeah, I didn't. Thankfully, it was my decision, very much so. No court system had to throw me out. Yeah, so
you didn't like admit to something like, hey, I didn't tell you guys this, but I used to be an international drug dealer.
So I egged out when I was, which I think I said on my polygraph, so I didn't lie about it. But no, it was my decision 100%. So
yeah. So we're joking aside, though, he decided to become a police officer.
Yep.
I think we talked about this a little bit before, and then you did it for a little while, and then decided against it. So what was the thought there? What was going through your mind?
So like I had said earlier, the process to join the police is like 9 months long. You go through all these steps and these tests and stuff, and just we were so back and forth between it because we knew we wanted to have a family, we wanted to have a few kids, and we knew it was working nights for a long period of time. It was hours overtime, days off were. Your weekends were Tuesday, Wednesdays, it was just, it took years and years and years to get onto a first shift job. And so we were really balancing we were banging on the fact I'm going to love this job. This is going to be my dream job. And these negative aspects are going to kind of be down here. And what we ended up seeing after the academy 7 months long. So after the academy, those weights kind of shifted, and we realized that, for me personally, I didn't love the work as much as I thought I did, or I was going to. And granted, a lot of it was probably due to inexperience. But the aspects of just working second and third shift and knowing that was going to be the case for 9, 10, 11 years and having multiple kids. And it was a really hard commitment to kind of see myself doing for that long to get to somewhere where I wanted to be. And so after, a lot of prayer, probably the hardest decision of my life for sure was leaving the police. And so in a way, it was kind of crazy. The exact same job that I had at Nationwide had an opening, and I had a good relationship with my old manager. So I just was talking to him about it, and he said, "You definitely can apply, and I will advocate for you 100%." And so it was a weird timing thing that it kind of worked out. And that was a little over a year ago, last July, 2021.
Yeah, it was crazy because I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
When I ran into you, I was like hoping to hear some cool police stories, and you're like, "Slow roll, Che.
I'm back in front of a computer.
I got to drop something on you." And immediately I'm like,
Yeah.
"Now we definitely need to get Jordan on here for the podcast." No, but I'm joking. But no, that was so. You talked about your dream job. I was listening to when you said that, and one of the things I thought was really cool that you said is you used the word "we" a lot. And I'm assuming you're talking about you and your wife.
No, me and my friend Brad.
Yeah, no, but no, I mean, which is important because I think when you talk about a lot of things, a lot of people make decisions, individually. So I think that's pretty admirable to hear you say we, and you guys talked about it as a group, because a lot of people would just say, "Hey, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I like it." Deal with it, and you deal with me being here and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty admirable, and it kind of shows,
Yeah, she was by far the biggest support system, and we very much so made the decision together, and she was behind me 100%. She was, throughout joining the police and then leaving the police, she was, "I will follow you and do truly whatever it is you want. If you want to know what I think and what I see and what it seems the best decision, I will tell you." And we talked about that. And so she made her opinion known, but she was like, "But I believe that you will make the best decision for us." And so it was really cool.
She put it on you. She did see that. She did
make it known. Yeah. So, but
I'm confident that you're going to make the right decision for us. Jordan.
Look me in the eyes and make the right decision. No. So,
was there spotlights on you?
Yeah. But no, we had a great support system, family and friends that we talked to a lot too. And just, a career move back like that was not something we wanted to do idly and make, just flippant. And, and, we spent a lot of time praying and thinking about joining the police. So within a year to go back on that, it was humbling. It was embarrassing in a lot of ways, but it was
embarrassing. Why?
It probably kind of, it reminds me a lot of the military to a degree. Like you're kind of in this career field, like this, being a police officer is this like noble career, it really is. And I have ridiculous amounts more respect for the police now than I ever did before, because I got to experience the kind of stuff that they deal with. And so it was like, I'm leaving this really great profession to serve the community and to really die to yourself on a daily basis, to go back to Nationwide and sit in front of a computer. And it was tough. And
but you're not. I mean, that's the job. But you're talking about being with your family.
Well, and that was
there's a bigger.
That was the difference, and that was what Lindsay. That's what she had to remind me of a lot. Is like, hey, you're not just going back to the desk. You're putting us first. And I think for me that I had to remind myself that I'm serving my family instead of serving the community. And I think that was, for a long time, I wrestled with that a lot. And I mean, not to go too deep, but I had to go to counseling after I left the police, just to kind of wrestle with identity of who I am and what I'm living for. And so it was really tough for a year, just kind of figuring that out and why I made those decisions. And but it was really good. I learned a lot about myself. So yeah.
You're dropping bombs on me. You didn't tell me that earlier today about that. I mean, holy cow,
put
me on the spot there. No, but I mean, I you said some things that I think are funny. I mean, I think it's great because it's what many service members feel is like it's a noble cause. We're serving, and it's a struggle we have where they're like, I mean, your struggle came, with the police force. It's kind of the same thing we see with a lot of veterans is, you have this noble cause, you're doing this cool thing. And then all of a sudden now I'm working at like Jiffy Lube or, you're working at BASF or wherever. And you sometimes question like, what fucking impact am I making on the world? And then the one impact we always forget about is we have a huge impact on our family. And that's the one thing I think a lot of us have a problem with because we always push that to the side. It's always like, I got to make an impact at work. Like every day I got to make an impact at work. I got to make impact with my friends. I got to make impact with my like whatever. But then like for me personally, I'm speaking, it's like sometimes I'm like, what impact do I have to make on my family? I'm here, I'm providing for them.
Right.
That's enough for me. So it's interesting that what, drove you to that, where I think a lot of veterans feel that same way. And I speak for myself, and I think we speak for a lot of veterans that same way. And I'm glad you got to talk to someone and figure it out. But, there isn't anything more noble than to live for your family. They're the ones that are with you every day. Hopefully they'll be the ones that, take care of you as you get old. I mean, I have an RN now, so like, it's awesome. I'm hooked up now, although he will never treat me unless I don't sign that something unless I'm incapacitated. No, but no, I mean, I think it's funny just to listen to you talk about it. You should, a couple of times you've like, I feel like you're building steam up on, and then you like knock yourself down. Like you talked about,
I'm not trying to be
like, I'm not proud to be like, I didn't do enough. And then like,
no, I'm not, that's not something I'm like joking about.
I know you're not. No,
yeah,
I'm not 100%. I'm not making a joke.
I want to check. Like, I think it's really, I pride and like cockiness is one of the things that I hate, and I think we're all subject to it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying like the negative side of pride. I think there is a side, as I mentioned earlier, of pride that you can be proud of doing stuff, but like I think we all know people who are just like self-centered, cocky, and it's the biggest turnoff to have a friend or know somebody that is that way. And so I always like to be cautious of that. In my job or around people as best I can. And I'm not perfect in that. I know I say things and do things that come off the wrong way and have bad intentions, but I think there's an importance of me remembering my place and who I am. Yes, I'm proud of the things I've done, but at the end of the day.
Well, I'm not making a joke about it. Like, I think there's the word that you talk about, I think I learned in school is to be humble, to be humble, you can be proud and be humble. It's a different thing. But I think you probably learned with, you said you talked to those people, but like, what I'm saying is like just a couple during the conversation, a couple times, you were talking about your service and then you're like, oh, but I didn't really, do much. And then you knocked it down. And then like the police force, I left. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a bridge underneath you and saying, hey man, like everything you've done is pretty spectacular. Like, to serve your country, like I said before, then also like at 31 years old to say, hey, I'm going to leave, my nest and do something that I'm comfortable with, to do something totally different is pretty admirable. And you should always remember that. You had the opportunity to walk away. A lot of people don't have the balls to even to toe the line in the first place. So no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was a very fun place for sure. Like, I love those guys. I still stay in contact with some of them. And like I said, I think being on that side and experiencing that, I have way more respect for the police than I ever did, and I did to begin with. Yeah,
it's a hard time to have respect for police.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
It's like, I mean, I come from a law enforcement family. There's some people, my wife's family that did it for a long time, and it's a lot of my friends are law enforcement officers, and it's a tough time to. That's what was even for shock when I heard you did it. I was like, holy Christ! Like, this is like the worst fucking time to become a cop, and like all of a sudden Jordan's like, I'm going to become a cop. I was like, when I first heard, I think the first time I really heard about it was like the day you were graduating. Because I think I DM'd you. Like, I was shocked. Like, you saw a picture. I was like, oh my, like, when the hell did did Nationwide start wearing Columbus police uniform? No, it was like, and the funny thing is, I think I reached out to you really quick. I was like, so proud. Like, it was like so crazy that you did that.
I was like,
it was cool. Like,
because we hadn't talked for a while.
Yeah, but it was like such a shock. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe this. And then the bigger shock was last time I was waiting for all these stories. It's like, Shay, let me tell you this. I got some bad news. Buddy.
This is not gonna. We don't need to elaborate on this, but we made the decision the weekend George Floyd was killed to join the police. So it was like the worst time to really decide to become a cop, because that was the weekend of the Columbus riots, and we made the decision to join, and we were like, what are we doing? But I mean, I don't regret it. And
no, you shouldn't. I mean,
and so it was a wild time, and it still is. And yeah, there are bad cops. There are imperfect people.
yeah, there's bad
everyone.
There's bad insurance adjusters.
Exactly.
There's bad.
So I don't think we need.
There's
to
bad
pretend
meat
that.
agers.
Yeah, but I mean,
Bad helicopter mechanics. Bad construction workers.
bad cooks.
Bad accountants.
There's no bad.
I'm not going to say anything bad about Ed because I still think he's like Dexter. So Ed is the best.
That is a very,
deal.
very good representation.
I'm in trouble now. Thanks. No, but so I got to ask a question. So basic training, police training, what's harder? I mean, you were 31. You were old as dirt at that point. I mean,
can I give a cheap answer and say they're very different?
what's
Well, basic training.
One's got to be harder than the other. Different ways,
Basic
like
training is
mentally,
9 weeks
physically.
long,
Yeah.
but academy is 7 months long.
Right.
But you get to go home at the end of the day at the academy.
Right.
So physically, I think basic training is harder.
Right.
Columbus police training for most police training is really not that physically demanding. I mean, you're doing PT every day, but anybody who's mildly in shape can pass.
So 49-year-old me still has a chance. What he's on me.
I will say that nobody failed out of our academy class willingly for PT. So you can do it, I think.
Come on, I could do it.
You can do it. You can do it.
Do you have to stop drinking whiskey though?
I drink whiskey.
Okay, so I'm good then.
Yeah, they don't check your logs.
No, I'm joking. Now. But I mean, yeah, it's different times. So like, what was like mentally challenged? I could say like, not 7 months or whatever for what you have to learn. I get it, but you did get to go home every day.
Yeah, you get to go home every night.
Monday through Friday.
Yep. So it's Monday through Friday. Ours was 7 to 4, if I remember correctly, something like that. So I mean, it's like a day job. We got I think it was a 45-minute, hour-long break for lunch, but we had to stay there. So I mean, it wasn't like we got to go and drive around, but we didn't have phones. We couldn't. I mean, there were some restrictions and things like that, but yeah, we got to go home at the end of the day. So it's but at the same time, on the flip side, it's like that was hard because then I had to go home and be a dad and be a father and had to shine my boots and iron my shirts and have everything ready. And so there's an aspect to where it's like basic training. I'm far away from everyone. I'm away from everyone for days on end, but that's your life. Like,
you're isolated and focused.
So there's pros and cons to it, but I mean, 7 months is a long time. It's a long time to do that.
So what was the worst part of police training? Getting tased, like physically. What was the worst?
Yeah, I'll show you afterwards. I have a video of me getting tased.
You can post that to the website.
I might. I sound like a 9-year-old girl screaming the F word repeatedly. But I mean, tased and maced was not fun. But I think like just some of the academic stuff, like the OVI training was actually like really hard, to be proficient in that, because you have to be perfect in it to be able for that to be held up in a court of law if you were to pull someone over and charge somebody with that. So it's not like, hey, you have to be like 60% successful at this. Like, no, you have to know every little step of the way. So there's like some of the academic stuff that you have to really know what you're doing. And just keeping in mind, like the whole step of the way, it's like everything you're learning in the academy to a degree is like life and death on the streets.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not every situation, but like, you got to understand that like, this isn't me just like going to get a degree at a college. Like, no, this is like, could potentially be the difference between you going home at the end of the night or somebody going home at the end of the night or not.
Right.
So
exactly.
I think there was this like mental battle a lot of times in the academy.
So you talked about, you're there for how many months on the police force at Columbus?
So, I mean, I was actually employed for a year. I was in academy for 7 months and I was on the streets for 5.
So it was quick. Yeah. So like,
very quick.
So no thought of like, maybe I'll try to find a different department, like the sheriff's department. I mean, did you think about something like a smaller department where maybe you can be on a shift or?
So I thought about that for a little bit. Some people do go to like Dublin or, Westerville and can try and make make some time a little bit, but usually you need a couple years on before you can be considered as like a transfer. And so, but you got to think on the flip side of that too, is that, these smaller departments, they don't have a lot of like turnover as much as, Columbus has like 2,000 employees. Like there's a lot of turnover, people are retiring all the time. And, but it's so large that it's still the time to get on to those nice shifts and nice days off is still. So it's not like I could have gone to Dublin and then a year later got a great gig, but you deal with less kind of crap, that the city usually sees. So there's pros and cons, but it was the same thing where it's just like, I'm going to go from one job to the next and still work second or third shift for a while. And I still don't love it. So it wasn't really something that I wanted to stick out to see.
So do you feel better about yourself now that you're not choosing the community and a group of people you don't know for your family? Have you
Yeah, I think
have you accepted that yet? Or?
There's a piece about it for sure, but there's always going to be a piece of me that will miss it. And I don't want to say regret, but there will always be a piece of me that will wonder, what if I did stick it out another year? And my counselor was great. And he really helped me kind of land on the point of, I made the best decision at the time. With everything that I knew at the time, that was the best decision I could make for me and my family. And I think that's 100% true. And so it's hard to say, did I make the best decision for myself a year from then or 2 years from then? Maybe, maybe not. But with everything that I was experiencing, going through, processing, living, everything my family was going on with, it was the best decision to make for us. And so I was encouraged by that. And so I don't want to say there's regret, but I will always look back and think, kind of the what if. But
I think everybody lives in what ifs about a lot of things.
I don't lose sleep over anymore. So.
Yeah, what if in Kuwait your longtime girlfriend went ahead and dumped you? There's a lot of things you can't.
What if I didn't draw that wiener on that porta potty?
What if I had not egged that house? Could have been a military policeman. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs, but So short time in the Columbus Police Department. Yeah. In the Columbus Police Department, what is the worst thing? You said a few times. Even last time I talked to you, one of the things that you said too is that you have a great deal more experience. What did you see that made you have a lot more respect for law enforcement than what you thought? What was that driving force? Or thought?
I think a lot of it is just kind of what officers have to deal with on a daily basis, and I don't truly we didn't experience the worst hate of people every run. We actually you as an officer, you receive a lot of thanks, you really do. But I mean, you definitely get a lot of just babysitting. You really are you are a city babysitter. You get called to the most ridiculous calls, and it's these guys are working late hours. They are dads or moms. They're husbands or wives, and they have a life outside of work, and then they have to go and deal with nobody calls the police for something good. That's what they always told us, is you are going to show up on somebody's
we make really good smash burgers.
Let's call the police.
The sheriff's department come down here and let's have we got a couple extra ones, but it said no, let's hold those until after. We'll probably eat those after. No.
So nobody wants to see you is kind of the thing. And so you just there's always this negative vibe with the police that you're just always responding to something that's negative. And, and I think just dealing with that, and I didn't see or experience a lot of bad things, but I mean, you as an officer, you experience some horrific things. And so to be able to do that day in and day out, and do that for 20 plus years, that weighs on you. And is very evident why there's a huge suicide rate with military service members and police officers, and the divorce rate for both of those careers are astronomical. Just because
that's a fact.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those things that's a slow build. It might not be something that every day is the worst day for somebody, but time after time, if you don't know how to process through it or talk with somebody about it, it will eat at you and destroy you for sure.
100%. Yeah, it's funny that it is the same thing we talked about. We have a lot of police officers in the group, and you see it is very similar. People that just are putting so much energy on the outside, and just seeing some things that are just they make you question, like I said before, like my faith, a lot, like humanity, just every human being. It's like you just start to have a really bad, a bad taste in your mouth. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you still, you didn't get too far down the rabbit's hole where, you become bitter, like a lot of police officers I know.
Yeah, jaded and bitter.
There are some bitter ones. I mean,
Yeah.
your classmate, he's going to last a solid 4 years or 5 years before he gets out of it. So, no, that's – and then at the time you got in, like, the Columbus Police Department was in, like, a lot of scrutiny and a lot of crap going on. But that's, like I said before, you should be proud about serving your country, about actually deciding to change your career and give that a shot. And I'm super happy that, that opportunity to go back to Nationwide was there, and that there was that, like, I don't want to say like not a crutch, but like you were able to go back and not suffer making a decision that was made in good faith, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. But now, after all that stuff, building you back up, like I'm building you up. I'm on the Jordan train.
Bring me down.
I got to give you a hard time. So one of the things I learned about Jordan I didn't know is he's huge into the fantasy movies, fantasy games. He's recently picked up a new hobby, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons since I was like, I didn't even know Dungeons and Dragons still existed. Like, I mean, I played maybe Dungeons and Dragons.
Have you ever seen Stranger Things?
I did. I mean, that maybe it's bringing back. But I mean, I remember going and playing Dungeons and Dragons like maybe twice. The first time I was super excited. This is probably like 87. 86 maybe, and I'm like, you
were 87?
No, in 87 before you were born. But and you're playing, like, you're going there and like you go to your friends and like you go into like the basement and they got all this shit, and I was just like, I was overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my god, and everyone's super serious, and I am not that serious actually. No. And of course now I'm not in my comfort zone, so immediately my first reaction is to make fun of people.
I understand.
So I just started making fun of people, and I played Dungeons and Dragons twice, and thank God I never got it. But now I didn't realize that's still a thing, though.
It is.
Board game still?
So it's not really a board game. So caveat to this is I'm very new to it. I've only been playing on my campaign for a few weeks now. I'm a dwarf, just so you know.
I have no idea what that means, but it sounds cool. It doesn't sound too cool being a dwarf.
No, it's pretty sweet.
You do look small on the camera, by the way. I would say that as it fits you right now.
Thank you. It's a compliment.
With your Hollister shirt, I still think you're wearing.
Oh, come on! This isn't Hollister. I've graduated Abercrombie. No, it was honestly, it's kind of funny. Like a few of my housemates and I years ago, like after college, we had always talked about like it'd be fun to play Dungeons and Dragons. Like you just kind of get together, you kind of play this silly game, and you just like it'd just kind of be fun to do. And we talked about it for years, but you have to have what's called a dungeon master, which is somebody who leads the game. Kind of like the orchestrator of it all. We just never had one. I and it just so happened a couple months ago, one of my friend's cousins moved back to town, and he was a dungeon master.
He's certified dungeon master.
He's certified, accredited.
I feel like Dungeon Master in 2022 has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah, it's weird when you brought all the leather, but no. Yeah, so we've been playing for the past like month or so, which has been a lot of fun. So, yes.
But is it more of like the fellowship of everybody together, or is it the game? I think that's what it's more about.
It's like this is a fun excuse for us to get together every other week, have some drinks, play this fun game, and it's like you get to make it as fun or as serious as you want. So it's not like we're not dressed in cloaks and like.
That's not what you told me earlier. So it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons pours with Patriots is the same kind of concept. Where
essentially like we could play Dungeons and Dragons right now, and we wouldn't skip a beat.
Yeah, it would be good. I would forget very quickly. No, but the other thing I thought was cool is like big Lord of the Rings guy.
Love Lord of the Rings.
I've always talked about my two favorite places I want to travel to are Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
You went to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Not to see a lot was going on, but actually to visit Lord of the Rings sites. It was one of the
So I
don't know if you guys hear in the background. The natives are getting restless back here. Before we started, we have a lot of really good food, but Jordan actually decided to bring a couple MREs for the non-military people that are here, and we were snacking on them. And I think Jason is making something for.
We got a Frappuccino.
Oh, he's making a frappuccino for the
I don't know
guys.
if I've ever had the frappuccino.
It's very exciting, but
Throw
yeah,
some
it's-
bourbon in it, and then we'll be in
So if all of us are sick tomorrow, it's because Jordan brought an MRE that was like 2 years expired.
It's definitely
but
expired, but I don't know if that might age with time, like age well, you know, like a fine cheese or something, or fine wine.
cheese.
Um,
No, we went to New Zealand.
I went
Was
to
it
New
all for Lord of the Rings? Hopefully not.
So no, so on my bucket list since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef.
Okay.
So in Australia, and throughout high school, I became a Lord of the Rings fan. And so after college, after the Army, you know, I graduated college, and I was like, I don't have a job yet, and I was like, it'd be fun to take a trip over there and do a couple bucket list items. And so I went on a 2-week vacation alone and went to Australia for a few days, scuba dived on the Great Barrier Reef, went down to New Zealand for about a week and a half, and got to see some Lord of the Rings sites, go on a tour.
Frodo Baggins' house.
Got to see the Shire, Frodo
Nice,
Baggins,
nice.
yeah,
Frodo.
his Hobbit hole.
Bilbo.
Yep. So it was really fun, and obviously got to see just beautiful countryside.
Oh yeah, that's one of my 2 favorite countries I
so
want to go see.
it was absolutely beautiful, and it was a ton of fun. It was weird going alone. I was an extrovert and still, well, I'm more introverted the older I get, but I was definitely an extrovert at the time. So it was weird being alone for 2 weeks, and it's not like I was bar hopping and you know, hanging out with people I didn't know. I would go back to my hotel room and be asleep by like 8:30.
That's the story he's telling Lindsay. It's a good story.
Yeah,
Stick to it.
I'll tell you guys the other story.
Don't at the
later.
last minute decide to change the story.
Funny enough, this is Lindsay and I were talking at the time, so we weren't actually dating. I hadn't actually.
Imagine Lindsay
Yeah.
even taking you to New Zealand and Australia.
So right when I came home from that trip, is like a week later, I went and visited her in Virginia Beach, which is where she's from, and that was when she fell in love with me.
Yeah, because I think going to the Shire might have.
I really tickled her fancy. If you know what I mean.
No, I'm kidding. So is she a Lord of the Rings fan or
Oh
not?
no, she makes fun of me all the time.
Thank God, yeah, that would have blew it for
When
you.
I asked her, like this was a couple months ago, I said, "Hey, would you care if I hung out with a couple friends every other week, like get together?" I told her the friends who are my best friends, you know, Corey, Gregory, Joey, and all these people, and she's like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And I was like, "Thanks." I was like, "It's also to play D&D," and she goes, "No, it's absolutely not."
Do not
And
post
I
that.
was like, "Dang it!" So no, she.
You cannot do the touch. You got a Bible study here, but we are not playing Dungeons and Dragons. Those nerds.
Yeah, she makes fun of me. She calls me nerd. I mean, she's fine with it, but she definitely laughs. She's not a big fan of that stuff.
I wrote that down that you said you were a self-proclaimed nerd. You did say
Oh,
that
I definitely am.
about yourself.
Yeah,
so
I'm okay with that.
that's why I'm calling you a
Yeah.
nerd. And today you identified as a nerd, so I'll call you a nerd.
I'm okay with that.
So the one thing, so you've been in the bourbon world for a while, right? Like I've known you for a long time in the bourbon, which is crazy that there's a bourbon world, but there actually is. It's like a subculture,
sect,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that, going back to your faith, which is important to you, how does that counterbalance? Like, do you ever like think about what you're doing, like drinking?
Yeah.
And going back to your faith, do you ever struggle with that?
Yeah. You know, I have to check myself a lot, and I truly I say this with confidence. Like, I don't ever drink to get drunk. Like, I have a cutoff. Like, I can feel when it starts to kick in, and when I start to feel myself.
100% agree with you.
I don't believe that. You host this, so I know you're not driving tonight. No,
I try to say with the straight face. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't drink to get drunk though. I don't. I
well,
enjoy
nobody. Well, I shouldn't say that. A lot of people will drink.
Yeah, that's. I want to dive into that. Because what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, so if you're sitting down, like you get home.
Yeah.
Like I don't have an urge. Like I love whiskey, so I love to drink it. So like, there's not like an urge. Like if I'm not at like 3:00, like I can't wait to get home and drink. But I don't think I
like 4:00. That's what you said.
Not every night. Like I will agree. There's some nights that I do drink to get drunk. Right. So
I'm not here to judge. You do your thing. I'm gonna do mine.
I feel like the faith stuff coming out.
We will talk afterwards, but
we're gonna pray, Lindsay. I'm gonna pray for you. Don't pray for me.
And
It's gonna be bad for everybody involved.
No, you need the prayer.
No, we'll be like no. But you hear that a lot. So I don't drink to get drunk. I actually enjoy it. Like I enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we're drinking bourbon, is because you enjoy the taste, the history, the stories, the experience of sharing it with friends. I mean, we're not over here drinking natty lights, and I think that speaks to who you are and in the type. We're drinking for the experience of everything with it. And so, I don't like being drunk. I've probably been drunk a few times in my life. It's not something I enjoy, and so me and my faith, it's not something I pursue. But So I try and only have a couple drinks when I drink. I don't drink like 3 or 4 nights of the week. I purposely do that.
He is.
Yeah.
Either do I.
Yeah. You put in your morning coffee check.
Is this the physical? Is this the physical? I have to go on next week. Like,
No, trust me, I want to drink
How
more.
many nights a week do you drink? I'm like 1.
8. 8 nights a week.
How many drinks do you have a night? Is my wife in here asking this question? No.
That's
No.
when you pull over somebody, when a couple's over somebody, how many drinks do you have tonight? The answer you always get is 2.
So is that your faith driving, or is that just your own internal? Because
It's
I
my
got to go
faith.
back to like your
It's
own.
my faith.
Really?
Yeah.
So, which is interesting
But
because
that's not.
that's
me
why I
saying-
get upset. Like not upset, but that's why I want to challenge you more because I'm kind of like
That's
if
I
I'm
get-
in my house, right? I'm,
To
I
me,
have older
yeah.
kids, right? So I have to say like. I can understand, like, all joking aside, like I'm making jokes, but like when my kids were your kids' age, or Marcus's, I was definitely not drinking as much as Marcus does, or I drink now. No, I'm kidding. He's drinking what? No, but I think as you like, my life is different. Like I don't have an obligation of
Sure.
that, and it's funny that this community. That's why I brought it up. Is like you'll see stories of guys tonight will be in some of the private pages getting shit faced drunk and. Then the next day bragging about how they passed out on the couch, and
Yeah, I think-
their wife is pissed about it. I'm just like, and they have a 2-year-old, and I'm like, my wife would have fucking killed me at that point.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, I've got 2 little ones at home.
Yeah.
I've got a wife who's pregnant. But apart from all those things, like, I also just
You have
don't
a
like
designated
to
driver,
get
though.
drunk. What? I'm
you have
the
a good
DD?
DD.
Yeah, she's me. I'm the DD.
No, she is. She's
No,
a good DD.
she drinks more than I do.
Yeah,
no,
not
just
now
kidding.
though.
No,
She's
I'm
like,
kidding.
oh, no, but we got a couple of months.
Yeah, a few months. She does like bourbon, which I'm thankful for. But no, I just don't. I don't like the feeling, honestly. I don't like the spacey, like not knowing what's going on, and it's personally not enjoyable to me.
Yeah.
And so I have a couple drinks, 2 or 3 drinks whenever I drink, and at most, and I'm happy with that because I think when I'm drinking bourbon, like or a good craft beer, like I can sit and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I can do that over the course of a few hours and be satisfied. But that's me. I mean, there are other people out there who can do that with 5 or 6 drinks and be in the same state of mind. There's people who can do it with 10 and
Let's not
get
count.
drunk.
It's like let's not make numbers. It's just makes.
What's
people
your number,
uncomfortable.
Jay?
Let's just say.
What's your number, Shay?
It just depends. I mean,
I'm
like
kidding.
like last night I got home, had a craft beer, and then I had maybe 2 ounces of bourbon.
And you were satisfied with that, I would imagine. Or maybe you could have had another one.
Yeah.
Another 6.
No, I mean, it depends on like.
But I'm saying you were happy with that. But
yes, so
tonight you might have whatever. How many other pours?
This is
but
only the
that's-
only ones I've had on
But
camera. so
I'm
I
saying
can't-
like you could have
It's
more
two.
and be.
Two is my
So
number.
it's not like every night you need to get drunk. To have
No,
a
but
good time.
it's not getting drunk though. So I think there's a like I enjoy it. So it's really funny. Like I mean, I'm really like I think I'd say I'm pretty immersed in the culture. You know,
I
a
believe
lot of people know I have a corporate job, and then I also work part time as bartender, and then I'm running a bourbon group, which is
Yeah.
great. But I'm immersed in it. Like I really love it. Like you said, like the things like the history, a lot of the stuff I was doing. Like so tonight, like when when we do this or we have people over, yeah, you're more inclined to have more. But I don't think there's a number. Like honestly, like last night, no, I didn't because I was down here. I wanted to have a pre-interview with you, but God got in front of that. It was more important than Shay, which I get that.
I mean, sometimes.
But no, but I'm down here yesterday and doing some work for tonight. In the notebook that everyone makes fun of me about. And my oldest son, who's 22, is over there playing Xbox. So it was either going to drink the pour I have and then leave or like continue drinking and listen to him freak out about some game at 22 years old. And I was like, I'm going to snap your neck. So it was so funny. So yeah, there's never a number. I just think,
I don't think there doesn't need to be.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. Do I absolutely think like honestly we're talking about this? This is the reason for the group. Core fundamental. We make a lot of jokes, but if you're doing that to drink to every night to get drunk, then you need to talk to somebody. There's a problem, and we've talked about that many times. There's many outlets you can call us, but most importantly, there's counselors that doesn't mean you're suicidal, but there's a lot of people that can reach out to you. But I don't think I'm doing that, and a lot of people in the community don't do that. There's like a weird. But I was wondering that with the people that like the faith and family, because I see some people that have young families, and I think to myself, there's no way that flies like
Right.
20, like 18 years ago with me. There's no way. Like,
Well, and I don't think it flies with most people. I think they just reap the consequences of it the next morning. But I don't know. I mean, everyone's different. Everyone's family is different. I think I'm not. I do my own thing. Somebody else does their own thing, and that's it.
I just know you've had more than 2 pours, so we have done a record.
But I've been trying to do small pours. I ate the biggest hamburger of my life.
Yeah, that's true. They were ridiculous.
Yeah, so and that came
smash
hydrated.
burger is
Yeah,
I don't know.
unbelievable. Easily the best burger I've ever had in my life.
Tonight?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't say that lightly. I mean, I haven't had but I don't do the, I'm like.
Now he's going to tell us, like, guys, I'm vegan. I know. All I do is drink water. Like,
no, it was a very, very delicious burger.
No, it's great. We have a great cooking staff on retainer. He's not paying attention right now. But
do they get paid for that?
Yeah, they get paid different ways. That's all right. No, but that's what's interesting about it's usually whiskey, but we're not allowed to talk about that because you're like, hey, Jordan's looking at, he's like, he's got a count of everybody. He's like, Marcus, you drank 5 drinks. Or no, but it is like the community.
I do not.
No, because I struggle about the community. Like, and we make a joke about it, like the funny thing about the bourbon community is that I'm in, that the core part that I'm in is like we do a lot of great things for the community. Like you brought the bottle. The Ukrainian bottle, which raised a lot of money. There's a lot of good things that are going for it, but there is that, like, a lot of times. I think my wife one time was like, "You're an admin group of a bourbon group that you guys are focused on drinking whiskey," and I was like, "Yeah." And when you really think about that, it's like, we're posting pictures. Like some people are like, "Hey, I went and look at the sunset." We're like, "What are you drinking?" And you have a picture of a bottle and a Glencairn, or like. Somebody asks you for a picture of your kids and you like start flipping through and there's like 900 bottles, pictures of bottles or bourbon. And then you're like, let me go back. Oh, here's my kid in 2019. But I think the community in general is, like you said before, it's like a community where we're doing a lot, for each other, and it's like bringing everybody together. And I think that's what, what it is for me, at least.
I 100% agree. And I don't know if you were part of the group or not, but to speak on that, like I was part of a group, doesn't exist anymore. So I don't mind saying it, but I mean, great group of guys are still around. Columbus Bourbon, CBC.
Yeah,
I had reached out in the group. I was a new member at the time, very new to bourbon. And I was like asking for an idea for a celebratory bottle because my wife's last scan was coming up for her cancer. And I had hopes and expectations that it was going to be clear. And so I was like, hey, what's a cool bottle? Like I like Old Forester 1920, or I've heard of Old Forester 1920 being great. And just people rallied around me and like found out what I was doing for, and they gave us gift cards. They gave us bottles. They gifted us a bottle of Pappy 15, like as a celebratory bottle. And it was like the nicest thing. That. I didn't.
Not joking.
No. We drank that together. I mean, it was the nicest thing that a group of guys have ever done for me.
No, yeah.
And I hadn't known 95% of them.
Yeah.
And so it was like the epitome of what most bourbon groups are, is just like, we like to have I should say most around the Columbus scene that at least I know. I know there are some shady ones out there, but I would say the reputable ones are definitely centered around caring for people, supporting each other. I mean, I think you see that a lot on a small end.
No, I agree. Like I remember that. Yeah, CBC. Like it was a good, and it's funny how they the ebb and flow, and they move and go, and everyone has a better mousetrap. Look at me throwing all these acronyms out. It's how my kids hate when I do, but it is. But the community is fun. That's what makes me do. Is there's some great things like my boss was here last week, and I needed. He's from Mexico, and he wanted a Cuban cigar, and I just threw out in the group. I'd like to get one, and it's just amazing to watch how many people like rally behind it. A guy offered it up. He still won't take cash for it. Yeah. And then Marcus, who's here, actually went and picked it up and brought it to me. And I think that's what the community is about. It's a community where if it's doing it right, they're there for them for all the right reasons, which is, it's not really the whiskey. I think it's fun. I think whiskey brings together. I can't believe this is mostly, I think we've talked about the whiskey in groups, but it's, what's brought, I have friends that are in their 20s. I have friends that are a lot older than me. I don't even know if they're right. I think I'm the old timer, but
Not
I kind of am the old timer. But am I? Holy Christ!
Yeah,
I'm having supper.
you're up there.
No, but there's been like that community of like agreeing together, and it is
For sure.
important. Like I think, I don't, back to what I said before. I feel like that balance between, a lot of people that have a strong faith or super anti whiskey or anti alcohol and
No, I love it.
yeah.
I love it. I think you brought up a good point earlier, which I think is important. Is like it is an easy like scapegoat. It can be something that is easy to run to and kind of like just use as a cover for like problems. And that is by no means I'm saying the majority of why people get drunk, but I think it is a very easy way for people to numb pain. And I think that you don't have to go through something extreme to be able to become an alcoholic, but just like it'd be easy for me to just run, like back when I left the police and I was struggling with identity stuff, like I could have easily just had several drinks every night to just try and like escape the mindset of like of feeling like a failure or something like
self-medication.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's a big case for a lot of people, but there are a lot of people that just want to drink good whiskey and have a good time and have fun.
No, it's true. And I think if you went back to like from a couple hours ago, we talked about when you turned 20, or you were in Afghanistan, turned 21, and you were around alcohol and you said you didn't drink it. Like the crazy thing about the military is there's a huge alcohol is a big factor, and like so it may be a little bit different. Like it may be different for the guard because you're only there a couple weekends, 1 weekend a month or whatever. But on active duty, it's a big thing. Like if you're a guy who you're 20 years old and you go back to the barracks and your buddies are drinking underage, which like you're 20 years old in the Army, like it happens. And you're not the person that drinks. It's like it's uncomfortable.
Sure.
And I can imagine still in war. You're in a war zone, like you're turning 21, and you didn't do that. So I totally respect that again, having that your own internal thing. But I can't lie. I think a lot of veterans and including myself. I mean, there's some nights I self-medicate with whiskey, where you have regrets about some things or what you've done or whatever. But
for sure,
as long as you go to work the next day, you're not drinking and driving and all the bad things that come, but those bad things do, like if you are using alcohol as a self-medication on a regular basis, you need to not do that. You need to reach out to a professional. That's not a good place to be, regardless of whether you like it or not. But it's just you have to take a step back and figure that out.
Absolutely.
So I guess that comes to the dark part of, like we're talking about, that kind of leads into the dark part about it. Tonight, like all nights, we're going to honor a veteran who went a bad route. And I say that, and I get a lot of criticism about it, but it's not the right route to go. And tonight we're going to honor Army Sergeant Sean Covington, 25 years old. Sean took his life on March 19th, 2016. In Enberg Park in Manhattan, Kansas. Sean was born October 20th, 1990 in Washington, D.C., and he enlisted in the United States Army in 2012. At the time of his death, Sean was a signal support NCO assigned to the 1st Squadron, 4th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Brigade Combat Team at Fort Riley, Kansas. While he was at Fort Riley, he deployed twice, once in support of Operation Enduring Freedom from April 2011 to April 2012, and then again for Operation Inherent Resolve from June 2014 to March 2015. There's not a lot about him. Why I chose him tonight, there's not a lot about him, what he was into, other than the facts, and the facts speak for themselves. Here's a guy who was in a short period of time, deployed twice, in a short period of time. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot, and why I chose him was there's not a lot talking about what he was doing in his life in high school. And that's kind of why I chose him. But he's actually preceded in death by his mother, Sharon Covington. He's survived by his father, Cornelius Baumgartner, his brothers, David Baumgartner and Raymond Covington, his sisters, Kelly and Cantress Baumgartner, and his wife, Ariana Jordan Lane, who I think at the time was actually pregnant with their first child. So, again, if you're a veteran that's having problems, or you're not even a veteran, you're having problems, or know someone that's having a problem, definitely reach out. There's some great people. Like I said before, it seemed kind of crazy, but you can give me a call. I'm always there to listen, but I'm definitely not going to say the right thing 95% of the time. So it's probably not best to call me, but there's some other professionals that can help you. And one of the greatest things that's happened in the past month is there now is a new line to call 988, where you can call 1-800-273-8255, press 1. Or if you're into texting, you can text 838-255. And again, if you know anybody who's having a problem, if you're having a problem, reach out. It doesn't make you any lesser a person to reach out and ask for help. We all need help at some point. And let's not do what, unfortunately, the worst part of the night is honoring someone that unfortunately thought that their only way out was to commit suicide. And it's definitely not the option. So want to thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry it took you so long for me to convince you to come in. It wasn't that bad, was it?
It's not at all. It was my doing. So I appreciate everything you having me. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you came in. I appreciate it. And again, we're going to end it with you have something. You got to get a toast, because we're going to do a toast to the artillery, I guess. So you got to get a little bit of a pour. Everybody have a pour over there? Come on. Okay.
Right. Anybody want
we're gonna
grain pick? If anybody wants some, come get some.
So I don't know if you've heard this one. I hadn't, but it's Ode to the Artillery will do it. So we got to wait for our audio guy. I mean, our AV guy. He's too busy pouring his glass over there.
Well, I didn't share it the first time, so it's my fault.
No, we're going. It's all right. So we're going to do the toast. We're going to do it before we close the final quote. But so what we're going to do our last quote. Here's a toast to the guns. By them we live. For them we would die. Whatever the mission, we'll give it a try. We'll serve them with honor, for they are the ones that make us artillerymen. So here's to the guns. To the guns. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for episode 13. We'll see you in a couple weeks. September 1st. Maybe. I was going to mark us. But no, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.